One NBA player committed so many crimes, they thought about making a prison cell with his name on it. While another NBA player did something so horrible, it ended his NBA career forever. These are NBA players that went to jail. You may not have known Tate George when he was playing, but he was a fairly popular guy when he played for the New Jersey Nets. But he really made headlines after he retired, when he was busted for running a Ponzi scheme. Apparently, George started a real estate group called the George Group and proceeded to defraud a lot of people out of their hard-earned money. He was arrested in 2013 after petitions were made, and after a series of investigations and a long drawn-out lawsuit, Tate George was convicted of 4 counts of wire fraud and was sentenced to 9 years in prison. But that's not all. A court ruled that George would need to pay $2.5 million in damages to his victims upon his release. Luckily for George, he was never thought of in the light of someone like Michael Jordan, kinda like Sebastian Telfair once was. Telfair was one of those players that were so good when he was young that locals started dubbing him the next Michael Jordan. He was the hottest commodity on the block at one point and could have made something special out of his career. Well, only if he could get out of trouble with the law. In 2017, he was arrested on charges of second-degree criminal possession of weapons. In 2018, he started a 3.5-year prison sentence, but that's not where his troubles ended. In 2021, Telfair was connected with 7 other NBA players who used a clinic to defraud the NBA of a whopping $4 million. So let me get this straight. This guy went from potential next superstar in the NBA to becoming a theft artist? I mean, still, fraud and stealing money are one thing, but killing innocent people, that's extreme. Javaris Crittenton was arrested in 2011 for taking a life when he accidentally shot a mother of 4 while trying to shoot a rival gangster. Yeah, you heard that right. He was an NBA player and a gangster at the same time. While his trial was ongoing, Javaris was caught with illegal drugs in his possession, and all of that got him nearly a quarter century behind bars. Well, then how about 40 years in prison? Tom Payne makes this list not because he's currently in jail, but because over the past few years, he has spent a combined 40 years in jail. That's like half the average lifetime. See, Tom Payne has spent the better part of his lifetime getting charged with sexual assault crimes. This eventually got him arrested, and he was jailed for 5.5 years. 5 years is enough to realize your faults for most people, but not for this guy. He was sentenced to another 5 years in prison after committing the same crime again. And while we're on the topic, we have to talk about someone we all know about. Kobe Bean Bryant. What? Kobe? Yep. Just a few months from the start of a new season, Kobe, who was headed to the mountaintop of the world's most admired celebrities, took a huge career hit after some shocking allegations nearly changed the trajectory of his career. In 2003, Kobe arrived at a hotel when he was preparing to get his injured knee operated on to get him ready for the next season. That's when an encounter with one of the young ladies at the hotel nearly became the downfall in the heart of Kobe's rise to superstardom. She was 19-year-old Caitlin Faber, who pressed charges against Kobe for sexual assault. Kobe, of course, denied the allegations, and the entire ordeal became the focal point for media acclaim for quite some time. This was huge for Kobe and the NBA. For Kobe, he was on pace for putting together a legendary career, but all of that was in jeopardy as the case loomed and details were still unclear. He lost some of the major sponsorships he had, including McDonald's and Coca-Cola, and he still sought a shoe deal after leaving Adidas a year earlier in 2022. Kobe had the case go on for the rest of his offseason and even into the 2003-04 season, when he would often arrive at games just minutes before tip-off because the entire situation was still working itself out. Although Kobe said that he was unfairly pressed with these charges, he did admit to the encounter he had with a 19-year-old that one night at the hotel, saying that both agreed on what was about to happen. The case against Kobe was eventually dropped, but the lasting effects of the situation stuck with Kobe for a while. He later said in an interview that I wasn't going to be passive and let this thing just swallow me up. At least for Kobe, he was always the hardest worker on the court. That's something his peers even said all the time. But Malik Beasley was literally the exact opposite. Malik had a promising start to his career, but little did he think it would take a turn for the worse not long after. Beasley was arrested on charges of marijuana possession, concealing stolen property, and for brandishing a firearm. He reportedly tapped on the car window of several people who had stopped their car in front of his Minnesota house, then pointed a gun at them to try to force them to leave the property. County police were called to the scene, and in a subsequent search, the police found another stolen weapon, several other guns, and marijuana. Beasley pled guilty to felony threats of violence and was sentenced to 120 days in prison. Jeez, enough with the assault cases already. Oh, wait, Derek Coleman caught the red flag too. While with the New Jersey Nets, Coleman was first arrested on an assault charge in May 1994 and followed it up with a disorderly conduct charge in June 1995. It came as a shocker, especially considering how most people saw him as a quieter and more reserved person. During a stint with the Charlotte Hornets in April 1999, Coleman was arrested for a third time. This time, he fought with police at a Detroit nightclub after his friend was arrested for disorderly conduct and refused to leave the property and continued to interfere. Coleman kept that wild behavior going in August 1999 when he stood up and relieved himself in the middle of a crowded Chinese restaurant. After speeding off in his Bentley, police caught up to him. Coleman would plead no contest to disorderly conduct as a result. He would also be arrested 2 additional times for DUI and for driving with a suspended license in 1999 and 2000 respectively. Running from the police and speeding off in a Bentley, sounds like a J.R. Smith thing to do. And I gotta be completely honest, when I first read about the time JR was arrested, I was convinced it was because of his iconic boneheaded play in Game 1 of the 2018 NBA Finals. But when he wasn't acting a fool on the court, he threw down monster dunks and had some crazy highlights. But JR has been arrested almost more than any other NBA player. In 2007, JR was out late at night to celebrate a victory with someone he knew and trusted. They toured the city, got some banger food to eat, and went off on the spending. But it was just a short time after that, JR made the worst decision of his life. Speeding down the road way over the speed limit, JR was arrested for reckless driving after he ran a stop sign and caused a collision with another vehicle. To make matters worse, a passenger in JR's vehicle died in the incident. It wasn't just any passenger. The man riding with JR just happened to be one of his closest friends. Just gut-wrenching, man. He would face suspensions, court appearances, community service, and even 24 days of jail time as a result. JR would see additional legal issues related to his motor vehicle operation in 2011. He was cited in Miami Beach, Florida for operating a motor scooter without a license. He would be arrested later under the scooter debacle after he failed to appear at a related court case, and the NBA even fined JR $25,000. How do you mentally recover from something like that? I mean, I guess it makes sense since he lost his mind in an NBA Finals game, right? Some of these guys ruin their careers for good. I'd be embarrassed if I were any of these guys.